Alright, so it is that time that we have to talk about this major character making his return to the MCU, and that's right, Chris Evans is coming back as Captain America for Avengers Doomsday. And now, especially with this big major piece of news that everyone are freaked out and excited, but even with the question is, how big will Doomsday will be, especially as they're got all these A-list actors, especially with the big budget, and even for what's going to happen and what is this movie even going to be. And that's what I'm going to break down here in this video, especially with Chris Evans' return, what it means for Doomsday and Secret Wars, and especially for all the multiverse things and all that stuff to talk about here as well. And so if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so it's on any future bits. But now let's talk about it. And so yes, it is true that Chris Evans will be making his return as Captain America in the MCU for the upcoming Avengers Doomsday. And now, especially with this news that came up about, and even with the details that are laid out, he has been casted in Doomsday, but there's clearly an unknown role that he'll be casted in, so we have no idea what role he'll be playing in the upcoming Avengers film. And even though with my reaction and thoughts to this, and I think it's also why are they doing this, because I think with Marvel they are certainly in desperation mode. I think back to that announcement when they announced that Robert Downey Jr. would be returning to the MCU, but as Doctor Doom, that he'll be playing the main antagonist for both Doomsday and Secret Wars. And even though that's just one step closer of Marvel getting out of control, but even bring back Chris Evans, this is a big major legacy character that played Captain America for almost a decade. And even though we got to see his big send-off in Avengers Endgame, but even now it's confirmed that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. will be making their return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in their legacy character roles. But I'm pretty sure this is all big stuff to even dissect and to even process right now. But I think this might be a good thing, because even with the Russo brothers said that with Doomsday they want to adapt every element, because especially in Doomsday and Secret Wars, they have so many variants of characters, especially as different versions. Because even if they were to bring back Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. as both Captain America and Iron Man, I'm thinking they could play a different or evil variants of their characters instead of undoing their send-offs, especially after Endgame. I don't want them to do that, but they could play evil variants of their characters. But specifically with my takeaway on this, it could be because I think with Marvel Studios, they want to get the fan base back for these Avengers films. They want to make sure that these next Avengers films, because they want to make a buttload of money for these movies, because especially with Doomsday and Secret Wars, they're the two most expensive Avengers films ever, because he would bring back all these A-list actors, and also Anthony Mackie is also going to be returning, plus he's the new Captain America as well. But it's especially this is so out of control. I think Marvel is sort of heading in the right direction, but especially with Secret Wars, that's going to be a big movie as well. And it's especially I think this was definitely the right wake-up call for Chris Evans. And plus, I think back to interviews when Chris Evans said this, if he would want to make his return as Captain America, but on this condition.
Yeah, that seems to be something people would like to see. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but I just don't know if, it's tough to, it was such a good run, and I am so happy with it, and it would have to be perfect.
And now on top of that, with Chris Evans now have said that, but now we're near 2024, it has now come out that Chris Evans is now making his big return, and even for how they're going to explain it in Doomsday, I bet this is going to be a quick role, or something big, because even that, Chris Evans is definitely getting that big Marvel paycheck. It's going to be a big payday for him, because especially if you look at the payday for both the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. I mean, their paydays are going to be huge, and I think on top of the budget and all the VFX combined into it, and they have to make a big load of their money back, and they want these next two Avengers movies to succeed, because if these movies fail or like attract audiences, and I think either doomed or like, I think this might be a good thing, because even though I'm excited about Chris Evans making his return as Captain America, this is like sort of like in desperation mode. I think this is definitely confusing at times, but even though that we have Robert Downey Jr. Returning as Doctor Doom, but I think like this might be a good thing, or it could not be a good thing, but I mean, like, especially if they explain it right and make it make sense, or like even for how will this work, especially for general audiences, that I thought that with these big characters that got their send off in Avengers Endgame for how their characters ended it off, but now we're in the multiverse saga. Anything can happen, because especially. And now with these events, they're being pulled off, especially that the multiverse exists, and we have multiple different versions of characters, but with the same name. So I'm thinking that like they can't like bring back Chris Evans as his version of Captain America, but instead I think that they could make him like an evil variant of himself, kind of like, you know, evil Hydra, or like some like evil Captain America variant. But even with Tony Stark coming back as Iron Man, like, he could be an evil variant too. But you know, he's already coming back as Doctor Doom, and he could play an evil Tony Stark variant that is that character. But specifically on like the standpoint, I think like, even though there's no been real build up for an Avengers team, like, they think like, what is this movie going to be now? With Chris Evans specifically making his return, and even if you look at his projects post of Marvel and ever since Endgame, they have not been great. Especially with this recent movie, Red One, and which, I mean, I did not like, but it's entertaining. But I think this was definitely the right wake-up call for him to make his return, and because I think like, yeah, like, especially as like these big characters made the MCU to what it is today. If they want to do this, they have to do this right in order to get the fans like excited again, and not just to like build on nostalgia, but to like tell like a new story, or to make it make sense, especially for Secret Wars route they're gonna and the multiverse saga, especially if you're bringing back a big household name character like Chris Evans, Captain America. I think they might have you call it back, especially for like a reason, probably to do like some sort of like appearance, but you wouldn't be there for like a long period of time. But I think like for the goal for these two new Avengers films is to bring in a new team of Avengers, like especially as, I mean, I think like with Secret Wars, of course we're going to see like the Avengers go up against Doom, but I think like we can see like evil versions of Avengers. I mean, the next two Avengers movies are going to be insanely huge. And I think like they have to do this right, because if you look at the budget right now, it's gonna be almost twice as big. I mean, I'm not joking, because even if you bring back all these big name characters and these big name actors to reprise their roles, and I just hope that these movies end up good. They land well with people, with audiences and critics, and they're well received. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want like good movies out of this, like especially it being like events. And I hope they have a very good story and a very good scripted plan, especially with Chris Evans making his return, because it would have to be perfect for him to make his return. At the end of the day, these two new Avengers films, I hope that they make a load of money, especially for it to succeed. And I think Secret Wars is going to be a bigger movie than we thought, aside from Doomsday as well. But that's it to it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what your thoughts on this news with Chris Evans making his return as Captain America for Avengers Doomsday, and just what are your thoughts on this? Just let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to notification bell for future videos. Also follow all my social medias, all linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.